There is little doubt in my mind that one day we will be listening to Mike Tomlin talk about football, much like we are listening to Bill Cowher talk about football. He's a genius. He's one of the smartest football minds and understands the game and the players better than anyone almost ever. He's a Hall of Famer in my mind, and I know that a lot of people don't agree with that, but that's okay. Either way, I believe we all know that a future in broadcasting, a future talking about football is definitely on the docket for Mike Tomlin. But apparently, he was pretty close to doing this years ago. What's up, everybody? Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. I'm Noah Strackby, and find us on youtube.com/all Steelers talk or anywhere you get your podcasts. And today we're talking about the what if of Mike Tomlin leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers for a broadcasting career, because apparently there's a rumor out there, a rumor started by Josina Anderson that has been jumped on by Steelers media members, current and former, who believe that Mike Tomlin could possibly be on his way out, or almost was on his way out, or maybe in the near future will begin to think about it. Josina Anderson tweeted out a couple of days ago, "This January will be interesting in the NFL coaching carousel cycle. There's talks behind the scene as to whether or not any of three of the longest NFL tenured head coaches will step down after this season or next, as these lists get compiled in preparation for vacancies. We'll see." Then Andrew Filipponi of 93.7 The Fan quote tweeted it and said, "Is this rumor about Mike Tomlin? Question mark. He is one of the most tenured coaches in the NFL. Is he the guy that could step down? That would be wild." And of course, Aditi Kinkhabwala jumps in as the rumor mill continues to say he was very, very close to moving to TV a few years ago, close enough to have talks with networks. That was a few years ago. He's not going now. So here's the thing. Maybe Mike Tomlin was almost ready to walk away, but the question was when and why. There are rumors out there that Mike Tomlin makes somewhere around $10 to $15 million a season as the Steelers head coach. That's a good chunk of change. And even Tom Brady knows that chances are he's the only one that's going to top that in a broadcasting career. Chances are Mike Tomlin is not as high on the "we must have you" as they are Tom Brady. So chances are it's not the money. It wasn't the money that he was looking for. It wasn't the money that he was seeking, as he apparently had talks with networks. And you have to wonder what those networks were. Were they Fox, CBS, NFL Network, ESPN? Who wanted Mike Tomlin the most? And what did they want him to do? Did they want him to just be a broadcaster? Did they want him in the booth? Did they want him to sit next to Bill Cowher on game days and start talking football? Or did he have a future at ESPN or NFL Network, being an insider and really giving a deep dive like guys like Rex Ryan do? You could see Mike Tomlin doing all of this. I agree with that one. But I don't think you could see him doing it right now, or more specifically, a couple of years ago. Mike Tomlin is a guy that loves winning as much as everybody else in that locker room. And a couple of years ago, the Steelers looked like they were a team to win. And it doesn't strike me, it never has struck me, and chances are it never will strike me, as Mike Tomlin is a guy that would walk away in the middle of glory because he sees in a couple of years things are going to get worse. That's never been his mindset. I've never gotten that from him. What I did get from him is that he embraces every single challenge every single time head on. He mentioned time and time again how excited he was to have a new quarterback because he appreciates how scary it is. And you're telling me this is a guy that in the last couple of years of Ben Roethlisberger's career, I mean, when was he thinking about this? Was he talking about it during the Duck ages? where it was Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, and he was behind the scenes talking to Fox Sports and CBS and NBC, thinking, oh, well, Ben's pretty much done, so this is over. Well, the next year they went 11-0. And I doubt he was talking that season. And then the season after that, it didn't strike me as if he was having any talks. And it kind of seems like in today's age, the way that everything is reported always, it's very hard to hide the fact that Mike Tomlin, who has an agent, like everybody else in football, most people in football, that news would have got out somewhere. There's no way that every single person would have just ignored the fact that Mike Tomlin, a Super Bowl champion head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a very young head coach, somebody who has been here forever, the third head coach in Pittsburgh Steelers history of significance, is walking away because he wants to go talk on television about football. It just doesn't feel like that's where things were headed. And before that, I mean, unless the AB drama was really getting to him and the Le'Veon Bell drama was really getting to him, which again, he does not strike me, never has struck me as a guy that was thinking about that. But unless that was the case, then I could see that being a reason that he somewhat thought about walking away. But none of it seems sufficient enough to actually make a move. None of it seems sufficient enough to have talks with companies about, hey, what are we suited for? What can happen? What is my pay? What's my role? I don't know. Talk seems deep into the dive. Doesn't seem like a scratch the surface type of move. And Mike Tomlin doesn't seem like a deep dive kind of guy when it comes to leaving coaching. Not yet. I mean, think about it. His wife owns a clothing company, a clothing brand in Pittsburgh. His kids are all in college except for his youngest daughter. You're not going to up and outroot her while she's late into high school. And it's not like you got other reasons to get out of here right now. I could see if his kids were younger and he wanted to go be a dad, but his kids are in college. They're not home anymore. It just doesn't make sense. And then speaking on the dad part of Mike Tomlin, if you ever saw this guy talk to somebody on the sidelines or talk to somebody in the locker room after a rough game or go and sit next to a player who's had a bad day, you would understand that this guy cares way too much about his players to up and leave when he's not ready to up and leave. I have a hard time saying that he would have left Ben Roethlisberger with a new head coach for the last couple of seasons of a Hall of Fame career to say, oh, yeah, sorry, buddy, I got you here, but the next guy's going to figure it out now. I don't think he would have done that. I don't think he would have drafted Najee Harris and made him feel so loved and then moved on. I don't think he would have done that with Juju Smith-Schuster or TJ Watt. I mean, think about it. This guy a couple of years ago, if we're going back a couple of years ago, had TJ Watt as his first round draft pick. The team was looking really good. The Bees were still alive and buzzing. There was no reason to leave. This was I am a football coach's paradise. A lot of talent, a lot of young talent, a Hall of Fame quarterback leading the way. So do I think Mike Tomlin ever got that deep into looking for a television position? No, I don't. And I don't want to call out anybody. I'm not going to say anybody's lying or whatever. Everybody hears information. That's all true. It's more or less how accurate is that information and how much do you believe that information to actually put it out into the world, especially on Twitter. I hear information all the time. I hear wrong information all the time. I don't put it out because I have something in the back of my head that tells me, this is not real. And it's not sufficient enough, it's not significant enough, and it just doesn't seem like the route I would like to go as a journalist, to almost put people in a position to believe something that I even have a hard time believing. My job as a journalist is to produce the news, is to get the news, tell it to you guys. So is everybody else's who are within these tweets outside of Filipponi. His job's to stir up the internet. And he does a damn good job with it. But the rest of these guys, there's just no reason to put something out unless it's very sufficient. And maybe Mike Tomlin isn't one of the 3 head coaches that Josina Anderson is talking about, and maybe she's fine in this. But I don't know. I have a hard time believing that Mike Tomlin was a guy that was thinking about going to TV. I have a hard time believing that he was that deep, that he was truly considering it, and he's not considering it anymore. Well, why would you consider it in the prime of a lot of these guys' careers, where you are still a team very much so hunting for the playoffs, where you have the support of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the fan base? Yeah, some of them hate you, but a lot of them love you. You got the players, you got a Hall of Fame quarterback, you got the best wide receiver in football, one of the best running backs in football, one of the best up and coming defensive edge rushers in football. Cam Hayward's out there. There just doesn't seem to be a reason to think about leaving. And Mike Tomlin doesn't seem like a guy that's looking to give up early. I could see if he was multiple Super Bowls in and that was the thing, or if he, did this way early in his career. But a couple of years ago, I don't know. Just smells fishy to me. Do I think Mike Tomlin one day ends up in a booth or in a broadcast studio or on ESPN or NFL Network talking to us? 100%. And I think he's going to be very, very good at it. But right now, headed to the booth, thought about it a couple of years ago, was in talks. Art Rooney had to know that he was in talks. Because if Aditi Kinkhabala knew, Art Rooney knew. And I have a feeling that many others knew as well. And it just feels like that would have came out a long time ago. And that we would have known about this. And that it would have been a pressing issue all the way around. Because dedication is key to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They keep 3 head coaches in the last 50 years for a reason. Because they are just as dedicated to that coach as that coach is to them. And that just doesn't fit the mold. It doesn't seem like what's happening in Pittsburgh. And I just have a very hard time believing that that was the case.